Hello everyone, I'm Strategic Sage. This session of the preview of the Neinzul Abyss expansion is going to focus in on game changers. That is, additions to the game that add a new dimension or wrinkle and aren't a variant of something that was already there. What you're seeing at the moment on the screen is a group of 10 ships known as Venators. These are AI ships, and they are put in the game to dynamically respond specifically to the player's military buildup and counter what you're focusing on. So, as a player, you actually have quite a bit of control on which ones are going to appear. It's going to be very unlikely that you see all or even most of these in any one particular run. And if you tend to focus hard into a specific style of ships you like to acquire, you're probably going to get very familiar with specific Venators. So let's look at what some of them are and why they might be deployed. First of all, we've got the Woeful Venator. And notice it doesn't have a huge amount of damage, but very strong attack bonus against targets with low armor, 50 millimeters or less. Against other ships, it's not going to be all that effective, but really hard countering that one particular type of ship. Then if you're going with high armor, we've got the Sadistic Venator, and that's just the same thing, only targeting a different group of ships. Then the Nadir Venator is a big one, and it's got a lot more going for it. It needs it because it's designed to combat Spire, which is extremely powerful. So we've got its melee. It can heal itself with the Vampirism, equal healing to the amount of damage that it puts out. I mean, that's a lot. Then it's got the targeting there of damage bonus to anything that's 8 tons or higher. It's hardened, so a single hit from a Spire Beam's not going to take this down. It's going to take at least 4 hits to do that. And then the defensive bonus, anything moderate range or further, is going to have somewhat reduced damage when it's shooting at a Nadir Venator. So, Spire players, get used to seeing this. That's all I'm going to say about that. Ecstatic Venator. And this is like the first two we saw with the armor, only we're targeting high energy using type of ship. So, definitely your officers, your golems, your arcs, going to see a lot of this. Also, probably frigate lovers, get used to the Ecstatic Venator. The Debauched Venator, there's a slight typo there that has been fixed, just that patch isn't quite out yet at the time of recording. But this has much higher than most of the other ones' general damage. The key here is it's immune to being zombified, and it's meant to combat zombification types of ships. Often, when you're trying to zombify the enemy, you're going to go after their powerful targets, but the Debauched Venator is not going to let you get away with that. You're simply going to have to destroy it. You don't get to turn it against the AI. Then the Quixotic, not sure how to pronounce that, Venator. This is an anti-melee ship, and I have to admit, I think this one looks pretty dangerous if you're somebody using a melee-heavy fleet. It's got, again, quality damage, but particularly look at the shockwave special effects. We're looking at, it's got burst fire there, it's got the area of effect, so it can hit lots of melee units at once if they're nearby. It's got the engine slower. Well, if a melee unit can't catch its target, it can't damage it. And then the knockback to push the melee ships away. So combine all of that. Yuck if you're somebody who's really into your gang saws or your vampire claws or whatever melee ships you happen to prefer. The Quaint Venator. This is anti-sniper. Think of it as a mobile counter sniper ship. It's very effective at that, but it has to be a long ways away to get that damage bonus. Notice 26,000 is the range there. Much closer range for the defensive bonus that it's going to want to have. And then the Truant Venator is strong against cloaking ships. You can see the damage bonus against high albedo and also an extremely powerful decloaker. That one will just vanish your protection if it's anywhere nearby. Hopefully this one doesn't come floating around if you have a cloaked transport, or it's not cloaked for very long. Then the Foppish Venator is a little bit more targeted. It's specifically only going to get that damage bonus against high albedo, but it doesn't have the decloaking field. Then finally the one that I'm probably going to happen to fear the most, and if you're a defensive style player, that's probably what's going to happen, the Demolition Venator. So this is very strong against bubble ships, the ones with bubble force fields, or specifically turrets. So the Stinger Bolt, that top weapon there, well, that's just going to do not much at all unless it's hitting a bubble force field, and then it does a lot of damage. But then the Fusion Bomb weapon it has, multi-shot, it can only target static structures. So this weapon can't be used against mobile ships, but it is going to crush turrets. Bypasses shields entirely. Yeah. Strong DPS, I'm just not interested in dealing with that, getting anywhere near my turrets. Thank you very much. And then also notice it does also have a defensive bonus at the bottom. Items with low engine power only do a quarter damage. So again, it's really attacking your turrets in that way. But any type of mobile ship is going to crush this. This is very much a counter, but a counter that has lots of weaknesses to it. On the player side, a major new asset for humanity is destroyers and wards. So 10 different types of destroyers, as we can see them all whirling around here below us. One for each weapon category, and one type of ward for each destroyer, plus an additional 9, so 19 total wards. The other 9 you get from hacking ARS or FRS, and those will go around the centerpiece of your fleet. So they could go around a regular transport flagship, but more likely what's going to happen is people will put them around their officers, their golems, or their arcs, and they'll provide some benefit there. So that's a lot of different types of ships. I'm not going to look at them all, but we'll do a bit of a representative sample here. And the way that you acquire destroyers is you hack them out in the galaxy. The cruisers are acquired the same way as destroyers. There's a destroyer construction facility. You'll have 2 choices present in there, and you get a 15 AIP cost for hacking it, as well as the hacking point cost. Again, same as cruisers. Destroyers come in a 2-pack. There's not one of them, there's a pair, but they fill in the elite ship slot for a fleet. So you can't have 2 pairs of destroyers in a fleet. You can't have a destroyer pair plus a cruiser. It's one or the other, one per fleet. They do benefit from the FRS ship bonuses, which is why that limitation is there. So we can notice that the wards, some of them are orbiting a long ways away, or at least a decent distance away from their destroyer, and other ones are basically right on top of it. They're really close. This is an assassin destroyer, which is the raid category. And we've got multi-shot here, really good metabolization bonus. There's an attack bonus if the destroyer is damaged, an attack bonus if its enemy is damaged, and then it has cloaking. So very fitting with the assassin name. And then look at the bottom where it says progenitor. Builds up to 3 descendants at a rate of 1 every 6 seconds. So that tells us how many wards this particular destroyer is going to have. It's going to be able to build up to 3 flare wards, but they're going to reproduce quickly. They're going to be all out there within 18 seconds. And so these right here are the flare wards. And what do? Well, they provide hardening. So they're going to take a number of hits to destroy. You can see since it can only do 10% per hit, it's going to take at least 10 shots to knock them out. They've got the attractant field, so they're going to absorb damage that would otherwise go to the destroyer, and they can pass through force fields with the force field harmonics. Also notice the ancestor bit there. If the destroyer dies, so do the wards. They have no purpose away from their mothership, that being the destroyer. So you lose the destroyer, you've got to rebuild the destroyer, and then wait for the wards to rebuild for it to be fully functional. Now another short range, if you will, ward comes with the chainsaw destroyer of the melee tech. Here we can see, gotta be in close contact to fight the melee weapon. It's damage amplified, and also vampirism there. So those are a couple really nice bonuses to have. And they can build up to 20 descendants. Those are the explosive wards. So these are going to take a little bit more time to get out there. And that's these 2 circles going around it. So it doesn't just have 1 ring of wards orbiting it, it has 2. They're both explosive wards. The difference is one group is going to be close into the chainsaw destroyer, the other group's going to be further out. And these are essentially a kamikaze or ramming type of weapon. They've got the area of effect there. They're self-destructing, and low armor targets are going to get hit particularly badly. And so this isn't a defensive type of ward, this is a very offensive type of ward. Anything near this destroyer is going to get punished. Then looking further out, some of the larger rings. For example, we have the Siren Destroyer, and this is of the exotic category. We can see the acidic spray there. Again, we've got Air of Effect, we've got multi-shot, we've got damage amplification. All of that's very nice. And this can have up to 60 wards, which are of the Siren ward type. This green ring going along here. And for the Siren wards then, they're going to be effective against targets with at least a reasonable amount of energy use, so not super small strikecraft type of units. And then notice that they have the harmonic as well. So it does 15 extra damage up to 1,000 limit for every additional ward. In other words, if we have a full set of wards, we're basically going to be doubling the effectiveness, but as you lose Siren wards, they're going to become less effective in their attack. So losing those wards is really going to hurt the destroyer's offensive output. And then let's take a look at one more here. This is the Predator. And we can see this has Falcon wards. If you look down there towards the bottom, this is an ambush level destroyer. And it's got a bonus to ships when it has just entered a planet. And it's cloaked, as you might expect from an ambush type of weapon. And then the Falcon wards themselves, well, they have a bonus against targets that just arrived at a planet. So the destroyer gives the invasion type of bonus, and the wards give the defense type of bonus. So this ambush destroyer combo is really going to be effective against both sides of the ambush coin. How about some extra spicy endgame options, including an alternate victory condition? We're going to be looking at the Enhanced Overlord in a bit, but first up, the Showdown. And this galaxy was set up just as a quick and dirty method of demonstrating the mechanics only. It's a small galaxy, it's difficulty 1, the lowest level. If you're playing this on a more standard difficulty, the response will be very extreme compared to what we're about to see. This is just the outline. So what happens in the Showdown is you have these Showdown devices. There are 4 of them seated throughout the galaxy. You cannot move them. You need to go to where they are, hack them, control them, and defend them. And if you have at least 3, then you can trigger the Showdown. Now, if you lose them at any time, then you fail the Showdown if it drops you below 3 that you control, and you lose 5 AI progress for every one that you lose. So you can afford to lose 1 Showdown device, but lose more than that, and your ability to win the game that way is now eliminated. So when you reach each one, we're going to need a hack to claim it. I already have 2, so this will be the 3rd one, allowing me to trigger it.
Hackers are in.
And then we have Initiate Showdown, which is an immediate AIP 10 hit, and it will trigger a response.
Hacking has commenced.
There we go. That 10 AIP hit is the least of our concerns because we're going to be hit by regular exo strikes and wormhole invasions over a 20-minute period, and during that 20 minutes we have to defend these Showdown devices. If we don't, then we did all of this for nothing. Now that the 20-minute Showdown timer is just about up, let's see what happens at that point as the warp grid does indeed get shut down. Hold on to your hats.
Your attack is nothing.
Well, that's subtle. Almost 300 AIP added. And notice that this is a small galaxy minimum size. If this was a larger galaxy, yeah, that number would get scary higher much more quickly. So what happened there is all of the warp gates in the entire galaxy were destroyed. All of the dire guard posts in the entire galaxy destroyed. The Phase 1 Overlord destroyed. And all ships that were in guard posts released. So let's see an example of that here in a reasonably populated system in Kesselman. See, all the ships are out, but they're just AI Sentinels for the moment. Oh. Uh-oh. Well, they all switched to Relentless Wave. You know what that means. They're all coming our way. Every Guardian that's going around defending a system, every ship in a guard post throughout the entire galaxy, they're all going to attack us at once. Our threat just spiked to over 1,000 even on difficulty 1. What do you think is going to happen now? Yeah, we're in trouble if we have not severely prepared for this. Then, that isn't everything. What about the Overlord? Well, there's a Phase 2 Overlord variant known as the Galactic Control Ship. And its capabilities, at least for now, are the same as the regular Phase 2 would be for that particular difficulty, with an exception. It have a ravaging ability. Now, up through difficulty 4, it doesn't do any ravaging. And if you're not familiar with ravaging, that's what the Zenith miners are capable of doing to a planet when they don't destroy it. Basically, everything on the planet is destroyed, but the planet still exists. Just all of the buildings are annihilated. So if you're on difficulty 5 or 6, it's going to ravage the planet it's on when the Galactic Control Ship is destroyed. You don't want that to be your homeworld if you're playing a multi-AI game, because there's other Galactic Control Ships coming your way, but your homeworld is now dead and you just lost. If it is a 7 difficulty and up, it ravages not just its planet, but every adjacent planet. So now you've got to knock them all out 2 hops away from your homeworld, on top of dealing with all this force coming that's been generated throughout the galaxy. Sound like fun to you? Now there is another option. Normally at this point in the showdown, the warp grid is shut down. You're not going to be seeing any attacks from outside the galaxy. But I have turned on, just to demonstrate them both at the same time, the Enhanced Overlord. And what that happens is any type of Phase 2 Overlord that's coming, you can see our threat spiking. We're about to get crushed by invasions here.
Major enemy incursion into our
But
territory.
the Phase 2 Overlord will send exostrikes your way and wormhole invasions your way on top of the normal things that it does. And of course, that's an independent setting. Typically, you would have that off with the Showdown, but you can throw them both on at once if you really, really want to. So if you are looking for something a little bit different than the normal endgame of knocking out the homeworld and just defeating the Overlord, well, the Showdown's got a definite spicy alternative for you to look at. Finally, a few additional odds and ends that are unique to look at here. We have the Corrosive Guardian, which is going to be our representative of the new corrosive weapon, corrosive damage type. Notice the green there, all damage applied is corrosive damage, then after that, corrosive damage is dealt over time directly to the hull of the target. In other words, shields don't matter, it's kind of a second cousin of fusion weapons in that way. And every second, a small part of the remaining corrosive damage is used, and then there's less left, and eventually it will all run out. But in the hands of the player, this isn't really too exciting. Corrosive weapons tend to not have a particularly high damage level. And it's not a bad weapon, but it's not going to be too fantastic for you. But if your enemies have it, such as the Guardian here, it can really stack up on items like shields, or turrets, or probably even worse, officers. And the inability to repair them and then get them back in the fight. I mean, if a force field can't be repaired for an extensive period of time, then you can't really use that to hold the enemy off longer while you destroy them. So it can really have a big impact if there's enough AI corrosive ships in the area causing you problems. Then we have this monstrosity. This is the Brutal Guardian Lair. It looks rather unpleasant, with something bursting out of what appears to be a large asteroid or possibly a small moon. And these, if you have them on, there's usually only a few of them in the galaxy, but they can detect you even a hop away. So, kind of like how an alarm post would trigger if you have too much strength in a system. If there's any player presence at all within 1 hop of the Brutal Guardian Lair's position, then it begins to count down. And you look at the timer there in the middle section titled Lair. So you have 5 minutes to get out. Total of 5 minutes, because the timer will continue if you come back in later. If the timer runs out, then the Brutal Guardian Lair will spawn a Brutal Guardian and will spawn another one every 30 minutes. And you can't stop that timer. Once it begins going, it's just going to keep going and going and going. And then you can destroy these, but you're going to take a 15-point AIP hit. You'll also get science and hacking if you do that. So you pretty much either want to knock them out or avoid them for the most part. And they definitely add some very spicy possibilities, particularly if you haven't built up enough to be able to handle the Guardians that they are going to be sending your way. And then, one final one is right over here. This is the Orbital Inertial Missile Battery. And it's just making its way, orbiting around the planet. And if we look at what it does, it's got a couple different weapons here. It's got inertia missiles and the Peltian energy wave. But on both of these, it's really good against high-sized targets. So we had the Vengeful Sniper Array in the last expansion, which was good against small ships, and this is sort of a counterpart to that. Notice on the inertia missiles, it can hit 25 targets at once. It's got knockback. It's got that attack bonus. It's got a engine slowing effect as well. So basically, it's just a nice little orbital version of a nasty planetary defense that you're definitely going to want to account for. And that is going to be it for our game changers in this session. But we're going to be coming back, wrapping up this preview series with some additional variant items that are possible with the expansion. Till then, thanks for watching.